Hey, I'm Chris McMahon. I'm a financial expert. I've helped thousands of people. Our firm manages hundreds of millions of dollars. Today, we're here to help you live your best financial life. We're going to talk in detail today about the 5 pitfalls people succumb to that screw up their financial lives. We're talking about how people let lifestyle creep kill them. We talk about the mistake that people are making for 2026 when they're forgetting about all the new tax laws that came out in the new big, beautiful bill. We see people also trying to time the market, which turns out to be almost always a huge mistake. We also see a problem where people maintain insufficient emergency funds. They move on to the next step of the financial cycle without having appropriate emergency funds. And lastly, and probably most flagrantly, they forget to participate fully in their retirement plans. Lots of stuff going on there that we want to really encourage people to look at very closely. So if we get to the end of this, we'll say, if we avoid these 5 pitfalls, I'm going to be in a better place financially, significantly better place. I'll be more on track and I'll be more hopeful about that great day when we retire. People come to me all the time and say, Chris, what happens? Where did I make my big mistake in my financial life? And I can think about all the people I've met over the years that have made their lifestyle creep the most important thing. You'd see when people immediately get married, when they first get married or they first start in the business, they're very practical about what they spend. They might not have 2 cars, certainly. They may have 1 apartment, they may have 1 small home, but they're very cautious about their spending. And what happens over time as we build in more money into our financial plan, into our income, what happens is we see this creep happen all the time. People all of a sudden wake up one day and they're 45 years old or they're 51 years old and they go out and look out in the driveway and they see 6 cars. And we say, why are there 6 cars? They say, well, we have our 2 cars for my husband and wife and we have the 3 kids at college that drive the junkers around and they park them in the driveway and these people start running motor pools. We see this all the time. And they're insuring those cars, even though there's just liability insurance on those cars, there's maintenance on those cars. There's gasoline for those cars. There is insurance for those cars. Many times those cars all have an easy pass in them. So it's so simple to let this stuff creep up on us. We initially had done an audit for one of our clients and looked simply at the amount of apps they carried on their credit cards every month. And it was startling to them and it was startling to our people at our firm. When we looked at it, we said, my goodness, this person has 6 subscriptions to Netflix. How did that happen? Well, they were getting on different cards and people weren't paying attention. And one was through the business card, one was through the personal card. That is the whole thing about lifestyle creep, which is just absolutely terrible. It's not normally about a house because normally real estate still proves to be a good investment. We are very concerned about it when it comes to buying a house because recently a new survey had come out that said the average first-time homeowner is age 40. You know, there was a time that was in the late 20s, now it's at the age 40. Why is that happening? Well, people are deferring life a little bit more. But the problem is you can't beat Father Time. Our goal would be to try to subdue the lifestyle creep as much as humanly possible. We're seeing young men getting married at age 37, 38. By that time, they already have bought a car that's probably expensive. They've joined a golf club many times. Golf is becoming popular again, unfortunately, I think, which really has a lot to do with lifestyle creep. And what happens is that takes place, and then you add a little inflation to that problem. And inflation, last year reared its ugly head. What happens is all those expenses go up more and more, and compensation doesn't keep pace with it. So probably the biggest thing we have to say to people is every 12 months, and this is a hard exercise, we want to get out, we want to take out our credit card statements, our bank statements, and say, how do we do it? We're going to cut 8% out of our savings. Out of my spending, not of my savings. We're cutting out of our spending. How do we cut 8% out? And it's difficult initially, but we've seen people actually become very, very good at it. Everybody will want to pretend they're a consultant at McKinsey and going in and cutting spending. What do consultants do? They come in, they're unemotional, and they say, I'm going to cut out this spending. That's what we're looking for. Someone to then be their own consultant, their own highly paid consultant, their own hired gun, come in and cut that spending out, which is very important. Also, overlooking what's happened in the big, beautiful bill. There's a lot of stuff that happened in that bill, which could help people save and accumulate more money. There's tax swings that took place, tax rates that came, and also savings vehicles, which have been improved for 2026 for many people. There's a SALT deduction, which is a state and local tax deduction, so we have to look at that if that's a possibility. We have to then also look at, am I saving enough in my qualified plan? Am I using my HSA properly? Because if I'm using a health savings account with pre-tax dollars, if those monies aren't used for health savings, they can be rolled over for retirement. Some of our viewers, they may have had a 529 that their parents or grandparents started for them. Well, that plan can now be rolled over to a Roth IRA for that participant. Also, as it relates to Roth IRAs, the income limit has gone up, What that means is more people could fund Roth IRAs. For those people who are fortunate enough to have too high an income to fund their Roth IRA inside of their retirement plan at work, they can also fund a Roth IRA, which we think is fantastic. So there's plenty of stuff to dig into in the big, beautiful bill. We got to make sure we don't avoid it. What are the other mistakes people make to derail their financial plan? Attempting to time the market. It is impossible to time the market. No one has ever effectively done it over a long period of time. No one has ever said, look, if I buy now and sell, I'm going to be in the best shape. It's amazing when you miss the 5 best days in the stock market, how much lower your rate of return has been. It's always shocking, and you could see it and say, my goodness, if I missed those 5 best days in the market, those best 10 days in the market, I missed out on half the return for the entire year. Let's not try to time the market. Let's not fancy ourselves. Let's understand that we invest for the long term, consistent with our risk levels, we're going to achieve our goals. Also very important, gambling is a huge problem. We're seeing this on timing the market in a way as well. These predictive markets are becoming very popular. Young people particularly are gambling more. They're gambling online. And now these predictive markets, I'm very concerned about what this means for the future of our society. Betting on, really fundamentally betting if it's going to snow or not. These are publicly traded. Betting on who's going to be the next, betting on who's going to be the next pope. These are real issues. And I think it's a real problem for people. So I think we want to not time the market in any way. And we want to get away from gambling. We want to buy quality. We want to invest for the long term. Maintaining insufficient emergency funds is an issue as well. We see people have an emergency at home. The water tank blows, the car breaks, and they have no money in savings. Why? Well, because instead of having that 3 to 6 months emergency fund, they use that for a gift. They use that for a trip. And that can really devastate a plan, because then what happens is you borrow that money. You go into the home equity loan, you borrow that money. You pull that money into the financial plan. And what happens then is you're constantly paying catch up, as opposed to saying, I'm a person who lives without debt. I eliminate debt as quickly as possible. I accumulate an emergency fund. And then over time, I start to buy these things. We don't want to consume first and save later. We want to save first. Build that foundation, which is critically important, which is 3 to 6 months income in the bank. We want to then make sure we have a retirement plan in some level, even if it's tiny, and then ultimately do some spending. And then really the big boy, as we talk about, number 5, is missing the 401k match. So many of the people we talk to, when we dig in and say, you're using your 401k? Yes, I am. Great. How much are you using? Well, I haven't changed it since I was enrolled automatically, which is good in a way, because they're enrolled automatically. The problem is with automatic enrollment, people never go back and evaluate. 1, is the risk tolerance level consistent with where I am now? And 2, am I achieving all of my matches? And am I also maximizing the plan? That money goes in there pre-tax, which is very important. Another thing about our retirement plans, if we're using a financial advisor, which is fine, it's critically important we pay those advisory fees from our retirement account. The rules have changed. Now, if someone pays their fees for the retirement account out of the retirement account itself, the IRA, those are not considered taxable distributions to pay those fees. So fundamentally, they're getting a 30% discount on paying the fee that way, which is very, very important. Some folks are using financial advisors. Financial advisors are providing good advice. If we have to be most efficient as possible, and if we can have a 30% discount, it makes good sense. So those are really the 5 pitfalls to avoid derailing and blowing up, really, your financial plan. Let's talk about them again. Letting that lifestyle creep come in. Defer some pleasure just for a little bit, not all of it, just some of it. Overlooking the big, beautiful bill, it's important and it's significant, the changes that took place. Attempting to time the market is impossible. Don't do it. Not having an appropriate emergency fund, spending first. Get that emergency fund built up. And lastly, not maxing out on our employer-sponsored plans. I'm Chris McMahon from Aquinas Wealth. Please click and subscribe if you want more content like this.